Okay. Right, you're on, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, on?
Yeah.
We'll let the ladies sit down, then we'll get started. You ready? Welcome, everyone. We'll get her mic off of mute. There we go. Welcome, everyone. Please stand and join us in a moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you. My name is Dennis, alcoholic. Welcome to the 7 a.m. Thursday night meeting of the Treasure Map Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Before we start our evening, please remember to shut off or silence your cell phones. Thank you. And we send a special welcome out to any visitors from out of town. If we have any, would you please stand and introduce yourselves?
My name's Rick. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Rick.
Gary Goodman, alcoholic.
Hi. Hi, Gary. Welcome. Is there anyone who may be visiting the Treasure Map meeting for the first time? If you are, please stand and be recognized. Introduce yourself.
Jeremy, alcoholic.
Hi, Jeremy. How are you? Welcome. Is anyone who may be visiting Treasure Map meeting, finally, is there anyone who is at their first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous? Please stand and be recognized. Nobody? Okay. We're happy that everyone came tonight. You're welcome here. If you'd like to come, anybody would like to come to the welcome table afterwards. We don't have anybody new, so I guess that's kind of out. The Treasure Map meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous believes in working the 12 steps as outlined in the big books of Alcoholics Anonymous with a sponsor. There are many home group members here tonight who are willing to be sponsors. If you are new or if you don't have a sponsor, you can stop at the back table, the side table over here, during the break and see one of us, and we can help you out with names. And also, you can always utilize Treasure Map cards too. They're good for putting your info on to share with people. And we'll start with the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees with AA membership, but we are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorse nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. We have several announcements tonight. First one is our next week is our second annual celebration, and there'll be dinner with that. Also, there's the 12th annual Sioux City Tri-State Roundup, and that's March 6th, 7th, and 8th. And you can pre-register. All the forms are up here on the table. And then there's the Sioux Empire Roundup, which is March 13, 14, and 15. And that's, you can pre-register for that too. Now, would you please welcome Marshall. I'm slipping already. We're going to welcome Craig to read How It Works from the Big Book.
Been called a lot of things, but never Marcia.
No, Marcia.
He's coming back.
Yeah. Craig Darby, alcoholic. How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted that we are powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for his knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I cannot go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Craig.
Now, if you'd welcome Todd to read the 12 traditions as we pass the basket. Thank you in advance for your generosity. Tradition 7 states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. I guess you know what the page is.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. My name's Todd. I'm an alcoholic. To those now in its fold, Alcoholics Anonymous has made the difference between misery and sobriety, and often the difference between life and death. AA, of course, means just as much to uncounted alcoholics not yet reached. Therefore, no society of men and women ever had a more urgent need of continuous effectiveness and permanent unity. We alcoholics see that we must work together and hang together, else most of us will finally die alone. Tradition number 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as we may express himself in our group conscious. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, The only requirement for AA membership is the desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose: to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
We talk a lot about home group membership at the Treasure Map Group because we believe it's vital to our recovery. What does it mean to be a home group member? Here's a brief excerpt from the AA General Services Conference approved pamphlet on the AA group. The AA home group. Traditionally, most AA members through the years have found it important to belong to one group that they call their home group. This is a group where they accept service responsibilities and try to sustain friendships. And although all AA members are usually welcome to all groups and feel at home at any of these meetings, the concept of home group still has remained the strongest bond between the AA member and the fellowship. With membership comes the right to vote on issues that might affect the group and might also affect AA as a whole, the process that forms the very cornerstone of AA's service structure. As with all group conscious matters, each AA member has one vote, and this ideally is voiced through the home group. Over the years, it's very essential that AA strength has remained with our home group, which for many members becomes our extended family. Once isolated by our drinking, we find that the home group is a solid, continuous support system, friends, and very often a sponsor. We also learn first and through the group's workings how to place principles before personalities in the interest of carrying the AA message. Talking about our own group, a member says, part of the commitment is to show up at my home group meeting, greet newcomers at the door, and be available to them, not only for them, but for me. My fellow group members are the people who know me, listen to me, and steer me straight when I am off in left field. They give me experience, strength, AA love, enabling me to pass it on to the alcoholic who still suffers. If you're interested in making Treasure Map your home group, you can talk to one of us. You can also do it on our homepage. And we have two speakers tonight. We have Marshall and Jean, and our 15-minute speaker is Marshall. And please welcome Marshall right now.
Good evening, I'm Marshall, I'm an alcoholic. Tallgrass is gonna get tired of hearing and seeing me. This is like the third time or second time Tallgrass has heard me speak. They're probably tired of it. If they want to sleep, I understand. I'm sober because of three simple things: the grace of God, great sponsorship, and a thing called Alcoholics Anonymous. The funny thing about those three things is I had no desire when I got here to ask for those things. I wasn't interested in those things. My sobriety date is November 15th, 2003. I knew of God. I just didn't want a damn thing to do with God. I really had no interest in God at all. There's a story in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the minister's son. And if there is a God, he hasn't done anything for me. I could relate to that real quick because I couldn't see anything positive with the God thing. You pray, nothing happens. I didn't get the woman I wanted. I didn't have the $10,000 job. I didn't have anything. I pray and I get jack squat out of it. So why should I continue to pray? Why should I continue to ask this God thing to ask for help? The thing is, I had to learn. I had to do a little action on myself, for myself. God can move mountains, but I damn sure better bring the shovel, because I'm going to have to put a lot of effort in this thing called recovery. In this thing called a sponsor. When I first showed up in the meetings of Brookings, because that's where I got sober, we had this old, hairy, old guy. I mean, he was one of them old people in Alcoholics Anonymous. And he had hair growing out of his ear. I had no interest in this dude. And he come up to me every once in a while. He says, "You got a sponsor?" I said, "No, I ain't found her yet." He just smile and shake his head and walk away. And he did this 2 or 3 times. And it was one of the meetings. I was the guy, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever done this. I was that guy, last one here, first one gone. As soon as the Lord's Prayer was gone, said, "I'm out the frickin' door. My friends are out at the bar. My friends are out there, not here." And the meeting got done. It was like a Saturday night, and he had one of his little stooges with him. And as soon as we said the Lord's Prayer and it got done, they caught me at the door. And he said, "Have you found a sponsor yet?" I said, "No, I ain't found one. Be honest, I really don't need your help. I really don't. I think I've got this handled. And that's a very dangerous thing for me to say, is I think I got this handled. After 16 years, I still don't have a handle on this. I am still the worst freaking manager of my own life. And the scary part is that not only did I am a terrible manager for my life, I'm a terrible manager on anybody's life. And for a long time, I loved to manage people's lives. Whether they were conscious of it or unconscious, I love to manage other people's lives. The problem is I didn't give them the script. They should just know, if I say something, do it. I shouldn't have suggestions. But going through the steps with a sponsor, and thank God for sponsorship, because when I got here, this book might as well have been Egyptian, because I didn't understand it. I couldn't comprehend it. And I can't relate to a guy from 1930s who's a stockbroker and plays golf. I couldn't stand golf for a long time. I mean, you beat the heck out of this little ball and you go chase that little ball. I didn't understand it. I couldn't relate to anything that Bill was going. And I heard this many, many, many times in Alcoholics Anonymous. Why don't you just shut up and listen for the similarities? Well, there are no similarities. Yes, I drink. Yes, it gets out of control once a millennial. It's not as bad as everybody else thinks it is. Don't talk to my parents. Don't talk to girlfriends. Just ask me. I'll tell you it's not that freaking bad, because I'd convinced myself it wasn't that big of a deal. Yes, I get drunk every once in a while, but heck, you got the job I got, you're going to freaking drink. You got the girlfriend I got, you're going to drink. And I had this famous or infamous statement I used to say for a long, long time. Something's got to change. Something's got to change. I'd wake up in the morning and something's got to change. And what that something is you guys. People, places, society needed to change. I didn't realize I'm the one that's got to change. And that was tough, and it was scary for me. What I've learned through Alcoholics Anonymous is this thing's got to change. My perceptions got to change. And my perception today is 10 times different than what it was then. My idea of friends is totally different. I had a ton of friends. You could put a scale out, and all the people I consider my friends, amigos, pals, and buddies, you could put them on a scale. I had a lot of them. But once I got sober and they realized I was serious about this thing, they kind of just faded away. They didn't want much to do with me. I ran into a guy, I was 4, 5, 6 years sober, and he's a big biker guy. And he had a beer in his hand. He came up, and I was with my brother. He says, "Hey, you still doing that sober thing?" I said, "Yeah, I'm still doing the sober thing." Shook his hand, and he faded on off. The people I got today that I call friends is truly, they probably know more about me than my parents do about me. And that's what it's about. It's about finding friendship. It's about finding someone that I can trust, because I came here with zero trust of human beings. If you breathe in, I didn't trust you. I had no reason to trust you. I didn't trust God. But by working the steps with a sponsor, I learned to trust. Step 1, I have to admit I'm powerless. And for me, step 1 is part A and part B. That's just how I look at step 1. Part A is I have to admit I'm powerless over alcohol. But what else am I powerless over? And this is something I have to work on every day. is how you guys live your life, how you work your program, whether you work it to my expectations or not. What I've come to find out is I have no right to put on any expectations on anybody. And I didn't realize how high expectations, not only did I put on other human being, but on myself. And when I didn't meet my own expectation, I was pissed at myself. And I had that our lives had become unmanageable from before I even took my first drink. And for me, first time I had alcohol to myself with no adult around, I can still remember the first time I had a drink. Because before that, I had a sip of dad's beer, a sip of mom's wine cooler, or something like that. And they were very cautious, very careful about how much they gave me. Because in my family tree, you shake it, they're going to come down in freaking groves. It was really bad, and I didn't realize it. But first time I had a beer to myself, I was in a friend's basement, and it was Hem's Big Mouth. That was my first taste of alcohol without any parents around. That stuff tastes like crap. It really, really did. And I choked it down. The only reason I wanted to choke it down, because I grew up in the time of John Wayne and Clint Eastwood. You see them at the bar and they're drinking. I want to be a badass. I want to be one of those guys. The only problem with movies, they didn't show what really happened, what happened when I drank. And I remember choking it down. The stuff wasn't that great. Okay, one more. Twist my arm. I'm sure most of you got that experience. Twist my arm. I'll have one more. Okay, we'll have one more. By the time I got that second one done, I went to reach for a third one. The guy said, "We can't. This is my dad's beer. We can't drink anymore." I look back upon that at 15 years old. I was an alcoholic. I was never, ever a social drinker. When I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous, if you would have asked me if I was a social drinker, I'm a social drinker, heavy drinker occasionally. That's it. But I was not convinced I was an alcoholic, because what the definition of alcoholic is kind of goofy. My brother was asking me, how do you define what is an alcoholic? And I didn't have the book with me, but I tried to quote it the best I could. Until I read this book with a sponsor, page by page, I didn't get it. And there's a solution. So we agnostics. I get up here and my mind's going 1,000 miles an hour and just okay. Chapter 4. The first 43 pages, this is what I was told, and I believe it. The first 43 pages are basically step 1, part A and part B. They're trying to convince me of something. They repeat and they repeat and they repeat. It's like, yes, I get it, but really, do I get it? I didn't for a long time. In preceding chapters, we have learned something of alcoholism. We hope we have made clear the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. If when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably an alcoholic. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only spiritual experience will conquer. And I didn't realize it because I was convinced that I really don't need that God thing, that I can do this all on my own. And I'm that guy. Once I start consuming, I don't care if any kind of narcotic, any kind of alcohol, I have no idea when I'm going to stop and what it's going to look like. Because I was having blackouts, and I didn't know what a blackout was until I got to Alcoholics. So all I knew was I had memory lapses. And I remember one of my blackouts, one of my mini blackouts. I was downtown Brookings partying, because it's college town, college girls. That's the only reason there are booze and women. And someone said, don't drive home. So I was living in Watertown at the time. Okay, that's one of the few times I actually listened. And that's about all I remember. I remember something about the lights, stoplights, and I remember that's about it. Next thing I know, I wake up and I'm all alone, thank God. I don't have any blackout stories that there's 2 chicks next to me. I don't have any of them stories, thank God. And I woke up and I was all alone. I had all my clothes on. The only thing I was listening to was my cowboy boots. And it's not my bed. And I'm sure most of you understand that fear that, oh, where am I at? Oh, and I get up and I walk in the living room. And there's people that I don't know who they are. And I said that same, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that said it. this is not good. This has got to stop. This has got to stop. And it was dead of winter like this, and I walked out the door, and I had no idea where I was. I could have been blacked out for days. I didn't know. I started out the door, and I started walking down the street. Eventually, I found out I was over by the bowling alley in Brookings. And that wasn't the first time. That was not the last time I did it. The problem is with me, until I have that spiritual awakening by doing all the steps, I'm going to drink no matter what, no matter how much evidence you throw at me, how many times my mom and dad got that look in their face, I'm going to freaking drink. Because my head tells me it's going to be different until I do this stuff. And step 2, I came to believe that a power greater than herself could restore us to sanity. What I thought that insanity was is just being goofy, being crazy, jumping out of cars while they're driving. And the insanity for me, and this is my definition of it, I'm not saying you have to believe it, is that I'll pick up a drink no matter what. Know how much evidence you have in front of me. I'm insane enough. I'm going to drink no matter what. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understand him. And when I got here and got into Alcoholics Anonymous or treatment, I saw that on the wall, and I was not anti-God, but I didn't want much to do with the God thing. And I knew you guys were going to jump me to Jesus and have me sell big books at the local airport and shave my head and all that. I was convinced of that. Well, thank God for a sponsor. When we were going through the book, we got to that part in Bill's story, and Bill and Abby are talking. He says, why don't you come up with your own conception of God? I literally did not know that was possible. And thank God the program is the way it is. It's not Christianity, it's spirituality. I'm forever grateful that it is the way it is, because the God I have today is not the God I had then. I ain't saying that God was bad or evil. The God I had then, what I thought of God then was, you break the 10 commandments, you're screwed. There's no help for you. You're done. The mean, evil, condemning God. The God I've got today is a loving, caring God. I know he loves me, and I know he has forgiven me. And I know that because I don't live in a prison. And I ain't talking jails, prisons, and the hill. I'm talking the prison up here. The worst one there is on the planet. That one that condemns me to hell. It makes me feel bad. And all them things I did to people, places and things. And I did some pretty horrible things to people. And what freed me is doing steps 1 through 12 and going up to someone and a sponsor and say, you know what? And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I was so afraid if you people actually knew who I was and what I really did to people, places and things, you wouldn't want anything to do with me. The goofy part is if you knew or rather knew, there's nothing you guys have done that I haven't done myself or thought about doing myself. I've done some pretty horrible things. And I went and I talked to a sponsor and I told him what was going on. And, every time he looks at me and smiles and giggles, or maybe not giggle every time, but he kind of looks at me and says, yeah, been there, done that. And that's the freeing part is step 4 is made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. What this program asked me to do is stop doing this. So I'm a professional at this. I can do this all day. Only problem is I got 3 fingers pointing back at the problem. I had to stop pointing my finger. I had to stop blaming. In the big book at the 12 and 12, I forget which one it is, we had to drop the word blame. And I was going through a situation with my brother, and we didn't physically get in a fight, but mentally it's just we had some issues. And we talked about sponsorship. He mentioned sponsorship. You know what? If it wasn't for a sponsor correcting me and telling me, hey, I don't care what he said. I don't care what he did. What is your part? And we went through that part in the back. Acceptance is the answer. I have to accept my brother as he is. And someone at a meeting, I wanted to hit him with a book, said, make a gratitude list on him. It's like, I can't make a gratitude list on him. He's an a-hole. And someone said, well, aren't you one of those? I say, no, I'm not. I'm better than him because I do this. I am better than him. No, there's nothing on this planet that makes me better. And once I started doing that gratitude list, very grudgingly, I found out my brother is sick just like I am and that he is worth loving. If God can forgive me, maybe I should learn to forgive my brother. Because God knows I've said some pretty horrible things to people, places, and things. I've said horrible things to my brother, and God has forgiven me for it. I think I'm about done with my 15 minutes. So Um, I'll end with a story that I've always gone out with when I speak. My folks gave me a plaque many, many years ago, and it's a real simple plaque. What it is, the little boy's walking down the beach, and the waves are coming crashing in. And in each crash of the wave, there's a starfish that hits the beach. There's hundreds and hundreds of these starfish on this beach, and it's a nice, sunny, hot day. This little boy knows if he doesn't take these starfish one at a time and put them back in the water, they're going to die. He starts picking them up, throwing them in the water one at a time. The voice cries out, "You can't save them all." He doesn't see anybody. He knows if he doesn't do something, they're going to die. He starts picking them up one at a time, throw them back in the water. Voice says, "You can't save them all." You're right, I can't. But maybe I can make a difference in someone's life tonight, right here, right now, through God's grace. It isn't anything I've done. I've got multiple sponsors with over 10 years, and I can't take credit for any of that. But if I can help somebody realize that there is another way to live other than the booze and drugs, because you take the booze and drugs from me, and just going to meetings, not being honest with my sponsor, I chase married women. I do really, really stupid things. In alcohol's defense, I do really stupid things stone sober. So it's not just the booze. And so that's why I need to stay closer, and that's why I need to do things like this. I walked in here at 6:30 thinking they was going to have some deal, and they said, "We need a 15-minute speaker." Something went like this to my arm. So I wasn't like planning on speaking tonight, but it's kind of cool that I don't get a warning, because what I'll do is for a week, I'm planning my speech. I'm planning how it's going to sound. The funny thing, it never turns out that way. I said a little prayer before I got up here, and if someone gets something out of it, that is my reward tonight. If someone got something out of it. But if no one got anything out of it, how's it said? Do whatever's in front of you and leave the results up to God. And that's what I'm going to do tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marshall. We'll take a 10-minute break now, and then we'll come back, and Gene will be our speaker. If you smoke, you can head outside and just clean up. I think there's buckets out there. Yeah, we'll get started again. Thanks, everybody. I'd like to welcome Gene as he'll be our main speaker this evening. Thank you, sir.
Howdy, everybody. My name's Gene Glass. I'm an alcoholic. That sure doesn't sound as bad as when I first came into the program being an alcoholic. I didn't know what it was, and I sure had a low opinion of what I thought they were. But it's turned out to be quite a pretty good ride so far. And what it was like, you know, I'm about as nervous as a grasshopper in a chicken coop right now. It's been a while. But when Mike asked me to do this, I had to say, yeah. My first thought was, how do I get out of it? You know, it really was. He gave me a choice of 2 nights, and it was either January 30th or tonight, and I figured rip the Band-Aid off, get the first night while somebody else snuck in and got that. So you're stuck with me tonight. But anyway, what it was like, japers. When do I start? I was born in 1960, 59 years old, creeping up on 60 years old. But God, it was a decent household we grew up in. I had an older brother, which I didn't care for very much, and a younger brother, which I didn't care for very much. Tried to live up to the standard of my older brother and didn't really care about my younger brother. There was already there was a speaker I listened to some years ago. He said, I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. And that was me. I knew what he was talking about. I felt inferior to my older brother, and I was so much superior to my younger brother. And I always tried to get up to that level of my older brother. Never quite getting there. And I always thought growing up that, of course, he was the first kid. Well, I think my dad favored him. At least I had that feeling. He never said it. But growing up with that affected me. It just did. And I didn't realize it at the time. Now I do. You know, looking back. I was always looking back. Looking back in the rearview mirror is where I learned. You know, it seems. But anyway, you know, we got along. We had a good household. And mom had the hardest job in the world. She was a stay-at-home mom. Back in those days, Dad went to work. Mom stayed home and took care of us brats. And we were, too. Oh, boy. She had her hands full. But, you know, we grew up learning how to fish and hunt. And Dad took us out fishing. And I don't see how he didn't lose his hair earlier in life. He got 3 kids in a 14-foot boat trying to change bait every 5 minutes. Jesus, that just had to drive him nuts. No wonder he tipped a beer once in a while. But that's what I remember too. Is there was some drinking when we were younger. Even before I was even in school, we were troublemakers. We took out parents rented a farm, and I don't know that I could even throw a rock, but we took out like 28 windows out of this barn on the farm, and boy, we were in hot water then. We got the belt that night, and that was more fearful hearing my brother get the belt first. I was terrified, you know, and we were like, I wasn't even in grade school yet. I was not even kindergarten, probably five years old. I don't know. But anyway, so that happened. We were troublemakers right off the bat. Good home, loving parents, taught us about God, you know, and took us to church and all that stuff. Moved to Moorhill, West Fargo, when we were young. Got into kindergarten, all that stuff. But still, even then, as a young kid, had a friend, hey, let's go ring some doorbells. Okay, I'm in. You know, what do? Ring doorbells and run. But you don't want them to catch you. Didn't understand. So we did that for a little bit. And, you know, I was one of those kids that, he was one of those kids that he didn't have to wear those 5-buckle overshoes, but I did. Parents made us wear those 5-buckle overshoes and kind of, you know, resented that fact. You know, these other kids didn't have to wear those big old gloppy old things. But anyway, we go around ringing these doorbells and getting away with it. And so we go over to the neighbor's house and ring the doorbell in the garage and run. And we think it's funny. So we go back into the garage
ring the doorbell and run. Well, that was going, then nothing happened. We go in there a third time. Ding, that door came open. Boom, he's out the door. We were scrambling. I got around the corner in those clunky old boots. He had these slappy old street shoes on. He got caught and spanked out there on the curb. They got caught him and spanked him out there. And my parents were wondering, what the hell happened? Oh, we were messing around. You start lying right away. Messing around with some power tools over there, and just got caught. Whatever, troublemaking, run, lie. Moved to Moorhead, Minnesota. Started shoplifting. I was about 4th grade. My brother and some friends came home one day, and they had these fancy little toys. Where the hell did you get them at? Inquisitive. Well, it's right into town. All you do is you take one and you shove it in your jacket. That's it. Okay, sounds simple enough. Don't get caught. Oh, no. So I get about 6 of these jammed in my jacket. And I look like a pregnant little 4th grader. Here comes the manager. Hey, boy, come with me. I didn't do anything. What do you got in your coat? Oh, here. Go up to the manager's office. What's your name? Lie. How do you spell that? I can't spell it. My brother's got to come up and try and figure out how to Gene Glass, and I'm Gene Shoganoff. I come up with Shoganoff. How do you spell that? I don't know. Sweet lie. And got away with that. Don't come in the store again. Okay, we're off and running. But my thinking was already screwed up back then. Do something wrong. There's an adrenaline rush. You do something wrong, you get caught, Gene. That's just what happens. So we, had a lot of fun bike riding and fishing, like I said, and it was all right. Seemed to be all right. So Dad gets another job, and we moved down here to Brandon, South Dakota. I'm 13 years old, 1973 it was. And got to show yourself and prove yourself in a new school. So right away there's confrontation. You got to get in a fight. I didn't like fights. I was scared. And it came off all right, and I was pretty quick in sports and stuff like that. I just didn't like to learn the rules. I wanted to go out there and on the field and play kill the man, and football, you got to learn all these plays, and I didn't have time for that. I was never, I'd join, but I didn't really follow through. Not a lot of follow through when I was out there. And pretty soon, you get to be a teenager, and parents are smoking, and they drink, and we would go up to my grandparents, for vacation, Christmas, whatever. And my dad's side drank. I remember we'd stop and get Grandpa like a half gallon of his whiskey and some beer for Grandma, and that was my dad's side. Now on my mom's side, a 6-pack would last a year. I mean, they just didn't, and they went to church regularly and lived on a farm, and they were poor as dirt. But you wouldn't be able to tell that by the way they behaved. They were happy, loving. On the other side, they were all right, I guess, but they had the furniture you couldn't sit on, in the living room. You had to ask Grandma, and you had to take off your shoes, and there's no soda pop. Then you can sit in the living room, and we didn't like that place. We wanted to go out on the farm. It was a lot of fun, but you had to go to church on Sunday. That was the drawback. There was a trade-off, but anyway, we got down to Brandon and got to fitting in with some kids, and then we started smoking. I was following my older brother's cue. He would smoke or steal some from the parents, and then he had some friends and steal some from them, and you're not supposed to do that. It's more fun getting away with it, stealing, than it was the smoking part. And then we get introduced to sneaking beers, sneak a beer out of the parents' fridge or something, and share it with your buddies, or we'd go walk in ditches too. Somebody'd throw out a 12-pack and they'd have 2 of them left. We'd hang on to those, and oh boy, that was a big deal getting away. That was more fun getting away with stuff than it was. We never got a buzz. You share a beer, frozen beer, between 3 of your buddies on a Friday night when you're going up to the bowling alley, and that was all right. And you got an extra old gold cigarette from your dad and pass that around and share it. And we were big shots then. And as it went on, we got more access to alcohol, and of course I hung out with my older brother, and we started getting older, and it was a little more accessible. We were out riding motorcycles and having fun, and all went well for a while. But I remember there was when there was enough alcohol one night, I did drink to excess. I was probably 15, 16 years old, and I don't remember getting sick all over this guy's bathroom, but I heard about it the next day, and it was like funny to a lot of people. I was kind of popular now. You got sick all over this guy's bathroom. Should have seen yourself. And I was kind of embarrassed, but yeah, that's just what we did. And on it was. And then we got introduced to drugs, at a young age. There was some smoking, and drinking went hand in hand. We'd travel gravel roads, and that's what there was in life. There wasn't much for studying. Hanging out the bowling alley and wait for somebody to come by in their car, because I had a motorcycle at that time. And wintertime, we'd just cruise gravel roads, grab a 6-pack or a TJ Swan or Boone's Farm wine, and smoke some pot and sit out there and listen to music and think life was grand. That's what we lived for, going to the bowling alley every night. My dad would say, I bet that place had shut down if you didn't go up there tonight. And they drank, and their drinking became more regular, and Mom was drinking all the time, or quite often. And I remember it was 17, and I woke up one day. It was just like another day in a summer vacation. And I rode my motorcycle over to a buddy's place. We're going to head up to the Palisades Park, have a 6-pack of beer, maybe smoke a joint, and just like every day is what we do. And I was heading home, got on my motorcycle. He went over to his place. I got on my motorcycle. I was heading home for dinner. And I got in an accident with a young boy. Yeah, he's 6 years old. And he didn't make it. And his dad was my Sunday school teacher at the time, and a high school teacher also. And I know that senior year I went into that school, and I was constantly hiding from him, dodging him in the hallways or turning away. And I don't know that my alcohol intake increased at that time, but that was something I didn't want to live with at that time. And of course, you get graduated, and I went on to get some odd jobs, construction, and my drinking increased, and pretty soon it was the bars in Sioux Falls every night after work, all weekend long, living in my parents' basement, minimal rent. All my money pretty much went toward the evening activities, and I skipped around, got in trouble. DWIs were going to start increasing. About every 2.5 years, I was going into jail, whether it was for fights. A lot of my blackouts were increasing. It really got to be a crazy time, but it just seemed, it wasn't bad all the time. That's that tricky part about alcoholism, is you go out and have fun on Friday night, and I went out to repeat that on a Saturday night, and I get home with a black eye, and what happened, and just out of control. But there was a lot of good times too. I mean, there was a lot of fun in that time period of my life. And so it became the only normal life I had. Even though people were concerned, my parents, of course, some friends had mentioned it, some employers, didn't see me progressing like I should be. And when we had the opportunity to go on vacation, me and a buddy of mine, down to Alabama, so we took off and went down there and saw his aunt and uncle, and got a phone call when I was down there that my brother had passed away. He was killed in a motorcycle accident. That was 82. I was 22 years old. And I didn't know, when I got the news, I didn't really feel like crying. I felt an obligation of when I told the people I was there with that he had passed away, that I broke out in tears, just so it made it, I don't know what I was feeling. I didn't feel like bad about it, but I just felt like I just didn't want to come home. I just didn't want that attention the parents were going to give me, and the relatives were going to be there. And I kind of thought that maybe God was getting back at me, eye for an eye type thing. And so we came back, and of course, I got the bright eye, or I got into more trouble going through another treatment center. I use treatment centers to get out of trouble. I learned that at a young age. Get into trouble, you go to a treatment center, they reduce your fine, suspend your jail sentence. And I got the bright idea I was going to head out to California. I had a cousin out there. My brother had stayed in his wood shop. He was a cabinet maker, stayed in his wood shop. So in 82, I shoveled out my nice car and headed out to California, packed my bags, and brought a buddy with that I knew in junior high. I hadn't seen him in years. And he turned out to be a worse crumb than I was. So I didn't last out in California for about 3 months, living in a one-room place and with him. And he wasn't working, and we were burning through my cash. And I decided one night I packed up my stuff, and early the next morning they were passed out. Some people were passed out on the floor, and I hit the road back to South Dakota. Thought it might be a little different back here. Got some odd construction jobs. 3 months later, I was back out in California working for my cousin in the cabinet shop. I'd gotten an apartment, but things really never got anywhere. I remember that lady at the treatment center said, "Gene, if you're taking yourself with you. Remember that. When you go out there, you're taking yourself with you, your worst enemy." And there's a lot more stuff out there. And of course, we got into that. And really, I saw Southern California from inside a bar. That's what it amounted to, and really didn't go anywhere out there. Got to be the foreman of the cabinet shop. I guess I worked my way into that deal. Some trips to Mexico, some trips out deer hunting up in Northern California. Just never saved. I was living week to week, paycheck to paycheck. And came back on vacation one year, and by God, if I didn't, my friends were still hanging out in the bars like I had never left, and it was just like, God, I got to get back here. This is where the fun's at. I got to leave California. And I met a girl, and I thought my life was going to change, and packed up my bags and moved back. That was, I lived out there 6 years. Came back to Brandon, moved into my parents' basement, and it wasn't long, and I was in trouble again. It was just, it followed me wherever I went, because I never learned a damn thing. And back into a treatment center, and used that again. That was my escape to get out of trouble. I'd come into AA, you had to sign this thing, sign your sheet, go to 2 meetings a week or whatever they prescribe. And I knew on Saturday nights, you go to Southside, speaker night. You don't have to say a thing. You know, yeah, you sit in the back and you split. You know, get there late and blast off as soon as you get your paper signed, and then, you know, you'll be able to tell the treatment center folks that you fulfilled your obligation, and so that didn't go any. I didn't learn a damn thing. I wasn't one alcoholic, and I wasn't going to be one. I didn't understand what it was, and I didn't stick around long enough to ask any questions and really care. Just leave me alone. My drinking became almost continuous now. I'd lost my license, got an apartment. This is my last bout of trouble with the law anyway. Got an apartment in Sioux Falls, close enough to work so I could walk. I had lost my license. I remember going into that, I started dabbling in AA again. I went to inpatient because I was really in trouble this time. And I hope that this would sway the judge's mind. I better go to inpatient. This is serious stuff here. I didn't want to go to the penitentiary, and I was close. It was very close. And I got out of Keystone, and well, I lasted 5 days. And I was off to the liquor store again, and I did start going to AA pretty regular. And then we'd hang out there, and the little Keystone buddies, you know, the treatment center buddies, we'd meet there at 8 o'clock on a weeknight or whatever, and we'd hang out. And we were there on a Saturday night, a speaker night, as a matter of fact. And God, we're trying to stay sober, but not many of us are. And this guy gets up, and speaker night, and Jesus, did he have me rolling. And damn near had me crying too. And then he had us rolling again, and I want what he's got. So I thought, hey, he'd be a great sponsor. So one of these guys gets up out of his chair, and I'm, no, I didn't need, no, don't ask him. Yeah, he went and got him. And this guy sat down, and I asked him to be my sponsor. I wanted what he had. I wanted to be able to talk in front of people like he did. I didn't care about the program, steps, none of that. And but we hooked up and we started doing this thing, and it didn't go very well. Not for me anywhere. That first 2 years, we started. Very nice guy, Mike. Everybody knows Mike that comes down here. And great guy, poured his heart and soul into helping me. But so I go around, I go to court. This is 1998. 97, I got a treatment. 98, I got to go to court and face the judge. And I get my jail sentence. I knew that was going to happen. I got that fine. I knew that was going to happen. And then the next thing's out of her mouth. She said, I sentence you to 2 years of AA, 2 meetings a week. Get your paper signed. I thought that was a cut. I didn't like her very much for that. I thought, who said that was never in the Argus Leader? You don't get sentenced to that in there. They never write that up. But anyway, so it was. I started coming to 2 meetings a week, 3, 4, I don't know. That first 2 years, I know I got 47 days of sobriety in one stretch. I just could not stay sober for nothing. Mike was trying to help me out and taking me aside, and we're going on road trips, and we're listening to speaker tapes, and we started a big book study. He started a big book study in his home, and there were about 7 of us that would go there, and on a Monday night, and I just couldn't stay sober. I remember I called him up one night, and it was Monday Night Football. The Broncos are playing, Mike. God, can I get out of this one tonight? Can I? He goes, I tell you what, Gene, Next time you want a drink, why don't you call up John Elway? Click, hung up. I showed up at the meeting. But I'm the only one that didn't stay sober out of that bunch. Something happened by mistake. Winter of '99, the millennium's coming. Oh boy, here we go. The year 2000, what's going to happen? Computers are going to crash. Chaos in the streets. I don't know. By mistake, I stayed sober that year. A whole year, 14 months. And then I dropped the ball. I drank again. It was unbelievable how that stuff sucked me into that toilet swirl again. Took 7 months in and out. I'm going to 100, 150 meetings a year at this point. And it took me out for 7 months. Still going to meetings, having other people sign my little slip. People that I'm drinking with now are signing my sheet from my probation officer. Mess, get off probation, whatever. I kept coming to meetings. Then I'd get like 6 months and drink, 9 months and drink. And finally, Mike said, we've probably done about as much as we can, Gene. You're just not getting this thing. This is like after 5 years. So I go sponsorless for a couple. And I go through one more treatment center. And I ain't getting it. I come up with a grand idea. I did some different employment and come up with a grand idea of, I work for construction sales stuff. And I had 8 months of sobriety. I thought, by God, I'm going to build a house. Everybody encouraged me to build a house. Be your own general contractor. So I got into that and bought some land and did this thing. And I remember that it was getting close to being done. I got a buddy. I pick him up in the morning. I got 8 months of sobriety. We're going to go out and work on the house. And it's like 7. This guy across the next door, he goes, "Hey, what time is it?" I go, 7. He goes, AM or PM? And we just laughed. I go, that guy's lost. I wound up drinking that day out of frustration. Something happened. I drank. Got a grand idea of, I was in the house. We finished it all up. I was going to go on vacation to Minnesota, do some fishing by myself. Had a small boat, went up there. I barely remember getting up there. I don't remember coming home. I know I was up there and my tent had collapsed. I was sleeping in my truck, just drinking. Terrible. Got home. That was the end. That was the end. I woke up that Sunday morning. It was 2004. And I saw it. Everything I had learned in here, everything that Mike had taught me, the people that pulled me aside and tried to help me for those years, it all came together right there that morning. I'd seen it work in others. There's a spot in this book. I'd seen it work in others, and I came to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as I've been living it. I didn't want to be that drunk anymore. In this time, I didn't have a drink since. That was like September 26th of 2004. I didn't know it was going to happen. My dad was going to start getting dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever that was. I think that might be a reason God sobered me up. So I don't think my mom could have taken it. Both of us being sick like that. But then I saw, almost like alcoholism, what they had been dealing with when my dad started losing marbles. How can I help him out? God, is there something we can do? Trying to help him. There was no help. He was going to slowly deteriorate, and we had to turn him over to old folks' home. But the people of AA were there by my side this whole time. Now, he passed away in 2006. So we had his funeral, and me and Mom decided to go up and see the relatives, and my truck broke down on the way home. She had her own car. I was north of Fargo on my way home. Truck broke down. Sunday afternoon, all these people were going by on the interstate, going home from vacation or the weekend, whatever. Hung out my thumb, and this old farmer picks me up. We go to Fleet Farm, get some transmission fluid, pour it in. Nothing works. So he tows my truck into this Amoco station. And I tell him, he knows I want to get home. It's either that or I get a motel there in Fargo, frustrated, don't know what I'm going to do. He says, tell you what, Gene, I got an old farm car. You give me a check for $500. I'll let you have that car. You bring it back, I'll give you your check back. But for the grace of God, that guy stopped. Anybody else? I don't know. Got the car home, cleaned it up, brought it back when my truck was done. And just one of those things that happened in sobriety. I was going to go, got sober. This guy calls me up. He says, Gene, will you meet with me on a Saturday morning? Yep, I sure will. Brought my big book. He sat down. He's going to be my sponsor. I've known him for years. Turn to the chapter where I believe it's We Agnostics. Lack of power is your dilemma, Gene. And so it started. Call me every day. And I would. And I'd tell him how frustrated I was with life in general, the job, loneliness, whatever was on my mind. And after I got done, he'd say, are you sober? Yeah, but what's that got to do with anything I just told you? He said, yeah, but are you sober? And it was, yeah, I am. And so then, it went on, and I ran into a bunch of guys that ride motorcycles. Now, I just happened to have a 25-year-old Yamaha motorcycle at that time. And so they asked me, we went to a concert, a Bob Seger concert. They had an extra ticket. And I went along with them to this Bob Seger concert. And we got along great. And he said, hey, next year, we're going out to Colorado. You want to go? For a Steve Miller concert. We're going to get tickets. I'm thinking, yeah, I'll go. Now, I'm used to going out to Lenox was a long ride for me back in those days. Now Colorado. But they took me in, and they put me in the center of that pack, and they took care of me all the way out there, and we just had a blast. And then other things started happening. This Herb guy, he's passed away now. He got me to sign up for jail meetings. I thought, boy, how much time do I got to put into this thing? My time was pretty important as far as I was concerned. But they got me involved, and I did that for a couple years. And then he got me signed up to go to some penitentiaries and speak. And that was, he didn't tell me we were going to speak. He just wanted me to come along. And I found out, next thing you know, well, you're up. Okay. And but he got me involved. And then there was Pancake Sundays. They got me involved in making pancakes on Sunday at Southside. And the miracle happened. I just haven't had to have a drink in a long time. And it's all due to this Alcoholics Anonymous, this higher power. I didn't know what God wanted out of me and what he had in store. I just know that my parents didn't deserve that kid. And that's a hard one. I don't know. They say in the promises, you will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. I still regret that. I still regret some of that stuff I did. But I guess it's God's relieved me enough that I don't have to drink over it anymore. Then I went through the amends process. I had to make an appointment with my parents. I went back to old employers. I found that teacher. And went and talked to him. And On Memorial Day, you go and clean the grave sites. Well, I do that now. I clean my parents and I clean that boy's. That's just one of the amends I have to make. It's a tough road, but it's well worth it. It really is. It's hard to do, but there's a reward at the end. And it's my sobriety. I still think of that. Through the hard times, Herb would say, "But are you sober?" Yeah, I am. Why? Because of this program. It's really simple. But people had to explain it to me over the years. Dennis was a great one for saying, Gene, you do good, you feel good. You do bad, and you feel bad. So simple. Some of this stuff, they spoon-fed me. And now I get an opportunity to do something like this, even though my first thought was, how do I get out of it? How do I not do this? But I couldn't do that to that mic. People in here mean a lot to me. Now, those folks that taught me all this stuff are getting older now, and some of them are passing away. It's very unfortunate because they have a lot of wisdom to pass along. They still do. But I guess it's up to someone like me to keep it going for others. We're worth it. To get a second chance at life, to find appreciation in the smallest things, to be able to laugh. I often thought, what did I do so wrong in life that I would wind up here? It's the best damn thing that ever happened. My parents got to see me sober, finally, before they passed away. Yeah. I think that's the one thing I hang on to most out of all those years of torment and sleepless nights. I remember them telling me when the phone rang, was it going to be the police or the coroner's office? They didn't know. I got to be with my mom in her last moments and say a prayer and let her know I was going to be all right. But it's you guys that helped me through it. I got so many phone calls over those next days that I was irritated. Leave me alone, please. So we made arrangements and we had her funeral and you guys were there. My friends showed up and the relatives. And it was a beautiful thing. But you guys carried me through. You guys stood me up, stood beside me, held me up. Now I've been to their parents' funerals. And that's how it is. And I've been to their kids' graduations. And we've had motorcycle rides from Colorado to Upper Michigan. I got an opportunity to go skydiving. Try that. That is like the ultimate rush. We did it twice that day. It was so much fun. I had an opportunity to check off some bucket list things, helicopter ride out by Mount Rushmore last year. And then we had another one, Christmas time over Sioux Falls. And it was a great time flying up there. I asked the guy, we're heading back. So I asked the pilot, I go, you ever get to do any of that Hollywood crap? Oh, like this? He took us on a good thrill ride that time. But it's all due to Alcoholics Anonymous. And this God guy, I don't understand what the heck he's up to half the time. I don't know. Go to work, do your job, enjoy yourself while you can. Boy, there's so much more to life than the way I was living it. Just existing the old way. This thing has opened up my life so much, and others. I get to do a 12 and 12 study now, Monday nights, South Side. During the winter, we start with a 12 and 12, and it lasts 6 months. Paragraph by paragraph. It's a great way, but I was taught that at Southside. Somebody did it for me, and then he moved off to Vermilion, and I thought, I'm going to try it. God, we got quite a crowd now. 15 people every Monday night, throughout the winter. A lot of input, a lot of different ideas of how things are done or how it works in their life. We got a lot of laughter. It's a beautiful thing. I hope everybody continues to come back. Because, Alcoholics Anonymous will go on without me, but I don't know if I can go on without it. It's really become a center point of my life. I go to a lot of meetings, a lot more than I used to. I drank every day. I can go to a meeting every day. 5:30 happy hour keeps me on an even. Get off work at 5. I'm there at 5:30. Got some coffee, got some laughs going. Where are you going fishing this weekend? Any concerts coming up? Cookouts, camp outs. That's my life now. All my friends in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't have a lot of time for the people I work with. They do their thing. I'm over here. Or I'm doing this. I've heard it for years. I never thought my life was going to be so good. Come in here with a long face when I first started Alcoholics Anonymous. And now I'm saying it. I'm repeating what they told me. Hang in there one day at a time. It means a lot today. One day at a time. How do you stay sober? One day at a time. Oh, yeah, tell me that again. You get tired and kind of tired of the phrases until you start repeating them. Yeah. My heart's changed. I love this place. I love Southside. Can't say enough about their coffee either. It's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. And we'll have Marshall and Gene come up here so we can walk through and thank them for their talk tonight. And we'll end with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back. It works if you work it.